I'm now going to hand over to Ben, who's going to take us through the technology and the customer experience pillars in more detail.
Great, thank you, Sarah. So yeah, I've been given the task of looking at both the online marketing and the e-commerce sections. Let's dive straight into some of the detail. What we did is we looked at a real high level of rigor around these categories to understand what success looked like and how we scored those. So from an e-commerce perspective, what we looked at is 3 key areas. The first one being user experience, the second category being performance, and the third one being website quality. Within the user experience, we broke that down into 5 core areas, which ended up being 26 different data points, where we looked at things like the homepage, search and navigation, the checkout, product pages, and how it converted from a usability perspective to mobile. We then looked at performance, and specifically from a performance perspective, we looked at site speed, both on a desktop perspective and from a mobile perspective. And then thirdly, we looked at the quality of the code. So we did a review in terms of the code, in terms of the number of errors that we were finding. We looked at it from a technical perspective in terms of how mobile friendly it was, and we looked at overall at the site infrastructure. So we ended up with quite a number of different data points that we drilled down in to investigate, and we wanted to dive in and share some of those details with you now. So what were the key findings? Actually, Google have been talking to everybody for probably a couple of years about being mobile first. Everybody appears to have been listening. They've scored really well. So 92% of retailers have a good mobile proposition, which is excellent, so a really big tick there. But there were some real areas of improvement, and these are the 2 areas that I wanted to spend a couple of minutes focusing on. The first one is the checkout process. And actually, there's £1 billion worth of revenue just for the top 50 retailers in the UK that's being left on the table for improvements that can be made around checkout. And I'm going to go into some details about that in a second. And the second one is site speed. Probably not the most engaging conversation to have at 10 to 9 in the morning, but it's a really, really important one. So let's dive in and have a look at what we found from a checkout perspective. What we found was 20% of brands don't isolate the checkout. So people can happily navigate in and out of that checkout process rather than staying really focused on that end-to-end performance in terms of getting through and making the checkout as slippery as possible and as easy to use as possible. The other thing we found, as per the video, 40% of people don't offer a guest checkout. So having to put in a username and password before you're even allowed to buy anything, that's an enormous issue. We found a study from eConsultancy that said 26% of people will abandon their basket if they don't have a guest checkout. That's enormous. That's 1 in 4 people won't convert. And 40% of the brands that we looked at the top 50 did not have that checkout. That's enormous. So what does good look like? What were we looking for? What's good in terms of a checkout? Actually, it's all about ease and focus. So ensuring that you have a good and have isolated that navigation, the ability to check out quickly without having to give lots and lots of additional information that's not really required for that individual purchase. Make it simple and clear, both in terms of number of steps and in terms of ensuring that you're guiding somebody through that process. So in terms of the clear layout and inline form validation, very easy, make it as simple as you can for the customer to complete. Also, give them support, live chat, telephone numbers. Important, you're at a key stage in that checkout process. What you don't want to do is for them to abandon at any point in that process. So we're going to have a look at a few people who do this well, just so I can share some of those examples. Harrods, if you have a look, it's very clearly laid out, very clear messaging around the pricing, being able to change the delivery in the checkout, really good messaging around the support and proposition messaging in the checkout. If we look at Wix, there's no sign-up process, so you can check out as a guest, really simple and straightforward. If we have a look at B&Q, actually really good examples of why you're asking for information and how you go about filling it in. You'll also notice right the way through all of these, they've got a very clear stepped process in terms of how far through the process they are and what they need to complete. Again, they've isolated the checkout here, and actually they've just got the core information that you're wanting or you might need to navigate to within the process. And here, actually, you can see right the way through the checkout your basket, so you can be validated in terms of what you're buying and what you're checking out on. And the same here. So those are just some examples of what was good and what we found in terms of, sort of best in class. In terms of those people that scored well, we've identified a few of the top performers. We've also identified a few of those people who could perhaps have performed a little bit better. So the next thing that we wanted to go on and look at was the exciting topic of site speed. It might not appear to be very exciting, but when you realise the value that gives, you'll understand it is pretty important. And actually, it's the single biggest reason why people don't convert on a site. So for every 1 second your site is behind best practice, it results in a 7% drop in conversion rate. So it's fundamentally important. And we, as marketeers, sit in the room and talk about usability and customer engagement and all those things. But actually, without this technical infrastructure sorted and working well, actually, it's the biggest area of why you might see dropout through your whole site. So let's have a look. We looked at 3 core pages. We looked at the home page, the category page, and product pages. We looked at them across mobile and desktop to be able to understand how they performed. Interestingly, home page, very content-heavy page, performed the best in terms of site speeds. But as digital marketeers, what we're trying to do is land people on the category pages and the product pages, which actually performed worse. So the first experience was quite slow. And if we have a look what our best practice is, or what our standards should be, we should be converting people at 3 seconds, or the site speed should load within 3 seconds of somebody landing on the site. So quite a long way to go. And if we take just the home page as a primary example, then if you look at all the retailers across the board, there's only 4 people on the home page that scored within the criteria of what we deem to be best practice. We also looked at the top performers and the bottom performers from a desktop and a mobile perspective. And you can see there is a vast difference in terms of those people performing well and those people who have area or room for improvement. And this has to be worth a significant amount of money that people are leaving on the table when you look at the difference between those people who are performing less well versus those that are performing well. And when you look at that from a mobile perspective, that gets even more extreme. Actually, the people who are doing well are performing better, but the people who are not performing well are doing considerably worse than even the desktop themselves. So there is a lot of room for improvement here. One other technical area that I wanted to just touch on, because again, it's a really important area, and just what you want to hear just after breakfast in the morning, is W3C compliance score. Actually, what we found was 44% of people had a poor score in terms of errors and good code on their site. So all W3C does is it reviews the site from a best practice perspective to say how does a site score in terms of number of errors that appear on the page in terms of physical code. And everybody in the room can go and score this themselves, which is good, because actually it means we've got something to go and speak to our technical people about. So this is one we ran yesterday for Debenhams, and what we found was 417 errors on the homepage alone. And actually, we can all go and do that, and we can all go and review those. What happens is these things deteriorate over time as all of us go and change images, change content. So you might go live with 0 issues or bugs, but actually over time that deteriorates. And the reason it's important to be able to understand this is from an SEO perspective, this can be quite detrimental. From a load speed perspective, it can be quite detrimental. But most importantly, if you look at how we're wanting a site to be flexible across all of our devices that we use and all of the operating systems, which is only becoming more dispersed, actually having the right code will ensure that the sites render correctly on all of those devices that you're wanting to optimize for. So anybody can go to www.w3.org and run that themselves. And in terms of who scored well, here's some of the people who scored particularly well from a site speed perspective, and here's some people who could do better.